Hi, my name is Carl Rabb, and welcome to TESOL lesson plan. This lesson is going to take probably 15-20 minutes in actual teaching time. It's designed for a third grader who is functioning at the early intermediate level of language proficiency. And this lesson will focus on vocabulary development and retelling story events in order. So I would start off my lesson by doing an anticipatory set, and I have a bag here. So I wouldn't show the student what's in the bag, but I'd have them reach inside and grab it, feel it, describe it to me, and then after that I would have them pull it out and have them tell me what it is. And you can see it's a piece of shrub. So we would talk about the word shrub a little bit. And from there, I would explain to the student that what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a short story, and this is the passage right here. It's called The Big Job. And we're going to be working on vocabulary, understanding the words in the story, along with retelling the story events in order. So then I would tell him, now you're going to be, tell the student that he is going to be reading this story to me. And as he's reading, he needs to remember the key words and details in the story, because he's going to retell those to me. So I would have him read the story, and I will read it to you right now. It's called The Big Job. Jed had to trim the shrub and cut the grass for Mr. Smith. This was a big job. Lots of bugs bit Jed, and it was hot. At last the grass was cut. Mr. Smith was glad. Jed's legs felt stiff, but he was glad when he got cash for the job. So I would tell the student, now I want you to retell me this story in order. So as he is retelling me the key words and phrases, I would underline them in pencil, and this would be my baseline. So from there, we would go into taking the sentence, the story part, a sentence at a time. So the first sentence says, Jed had to trim the shrub and cut the grass for Mr. Smith. So I would say the first important thing is Jed is trimming the shrub. So I would show him this picture right here of a man who is trimming the shrub and talk about what does trim mean, what does shrub mean, and so on, to make sure he really understands. And then the next thing I would tell him, I would show him this picture. Now, this is a picture of a boy who is cutting the grass. So we could pretend this is Jed, and he's cutting the grass for Mr. Smith. So already we have two important details. The first one, that Jed is trimming a shrub, and then he's cutting the grass for Mr. Smith. The next sentence says, this was a big job. So talk about that. It's probably a big yard, and there were lots of shrubs. The shrub itself was huge. It took a long time. Then we would talk about the next sentence, which is lots of bugs bit Jed, and it was hot. So here's a picture of a nasty bug biting somebody. So we would picture a lot of bugs biting Jed. Maybe he's getting bit on the arms and on the neck and on the face and so on. But really help him by describing what that would look like, and talk about it being very hot, and Jed is sweating and so on. The next sentence says, at last the grass was cut. So Jed is finally done with his job, and Mr. Smith is glad. So here's a picture of Mr. Smith. Look how glad he is. He is so happy, and he's got a big smile on his face. The job is finally done. The last sentence is, Jed's legs felt stiff. We want to talk about that. What does it mean when your legs are stiff? So I would motion my legs. My legs are tight. They're tired because I've been pushing that lawnmower. It was a lot of work. And my muscles are really sore. But he was glad when he got cash for the job. So here's Mr. Smith giving some cash to Jed for the job he just did. So we have gone through this story. I've modeled it. We've talked about the pictures. So now we're going to do some guided practice. So the guided practice part would be where starting off, this is the first one talking about it. This is where Jed is trimming the shrub and helping this student if he has any difficulties at all. This is the next thing where Jed is cutting the grass, and so on. Go through all of them in order to make sure he understands. Again, this is guided practice, so if he needs any prompting, I would be there to help him. So we're now ready for independent practice. So independent practice would be, I would first of all lay the events in order and have the student now talk about them. So he would talk about this picture and this picture. Again, they're all in order, and so on. Go through the whole story that way. Then I would take all the pictures, mix them up, and give them to the student and say, now you put them in order, and then you tell me what's going on with each picture. So again, he's going to put them in order, hopefully, and then tell me what's going on with each one. And then the last part of independent practice would be for him to retell me the story in order without using any visuals. And as he is retelling it to me, I'm going to get a pen out this time, and I'm going to underline all the keywords, details, and phrases that he tells me. When he is all done, I will show him the difference between the first retell and the second retell. And he will have asked this story if he could give me 3 or more details in order that captures the main idea. My final step for this lesson would be to share with the student, or to tell the student to practice the vocabulary at home. So I would point out, try using the word trim at home, try using the word shrub, cutting the grass, talk about, the next one would be use the word glad. The next phrase, legs felt stiff. So again, I just want to encourage the student to use these words at home. So that is the conclusion of my TESOL lesson plan, and hopefully it has been a blessing to you. Thank you for watching.